All right, so we got a few different topics tonight. One of those is actually something that came up last week. We just didn't end up getting to talk about. As of, I think it was last week. Let me find the date on that. Yes, as of last Wednesday, Black Ops 6, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which of course is the first Call of Duty game that has been published by Microsoft that was actually developed, at least in large part, while Activision after Activision was purchased by Microsoft. Black Ops 6 was the biggest Call of Duty release ever, at least according to Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft. He said last week's launch of Black Ops 6, and that was October 25th that launched, was the biggest Call of Duty release ever, setting a record for day one players as well as Game Pass subscriber ads on each day. On launch day, excuse me. And unit sales on PlayStation and Steam were also up over 60% year over year. This speaks to our strategy of meeting gamers where they are by enabling them to play more games across the screens they spend their time on. So, they haven't released specific sales numbers or anything like that, but basically they said that it is the largest in terms of day one number of players and everything else, and the biggest that Call of Duty has ever had, apparently. So what are your thoughts on this?
So it's definitely interesting considering the fact that a whole lot of people, well, fanboys, namely, were saying that Call of Duty being on Game Pass would be a disaster. I mean, granted, they said that Microsoft having Microsoft having Activision and Call of Duty would be a disaster when, Microsoft realized, yeah, we're not going to keep the game off of PlayStation because that's just going to kill a lot of sales, even if, we make exclusive. So then, the fans were saying, well, it's on Game Pass. Someone's going to want to play it on, it's going to buy it on Game Pass, if it's on Game Pass, and, like, there are not going to be that many sales. And, considering the fact that this is now the biggest launch in history, and this is the first Call of Duty game that is under Microsoft, because I'm pretty certain this is the first one. The other ones haven't been.
Well, the last one came like just after they acquired Activision, but it was not developed while Activision was under them.
Okay, then yeah. So the fact that this is doing a whole lot better than even that really speaks volumes. And the fact that it's driven so much stuff, and the fact that, I mean, it also that it has made so many records and has topped even on like Steam, as far as like the concurrent players count. I think it was even number one for a good while from what I've heard. Definitely shows that Game Pass maybe doesn't kill games, despite what the rumors say. So yeah, it's definitely interesting there. One thing that I happen to know, one of the articles that you shared was the fact that there is going to be some free content coming up, as far as like the first season for the game goes, which is definitely, I think, going to help, especially at least with the longevity of the game. Because, like, sure, some people will obviously buy the season pass, but for people who might not necessarily care to buy the season pass, or at least not right away, there'll still be some additional content coming that will definitely spur people to play, or at least keep playing. So that'll definitely help there. Now, personally, I haven't played Call of Duty Black Ops, or not Black Ops, but Call of Duty since, like, I want to say maybe it was Black Ops 2, or maybe it was 1. I'll remember it was on the PS3. So I haven't touched it in a long time, but the series is still going strong, and technically stronger than it ever has been with these numbers. And so we'll definitely see what happens in the future. But I definitely think that this is going to maybe this will be something that Microsoft considers with Game Pass, as far as like trying to push it onto other platforms, perhaps by saying, hey, you can also play these games that are major releases, and we'll try to get on here, and we'll get more people to buy into Game Pass. So that's something that they could look at the situation and say, let's try to push this more and try to get into other platforms as well. I mean, we already know that they tried doing that with Nintendo. I remember like a while back. So maybe they might try to get back into that as well. So trying to get into more platforms.
And I'm pretty sure they've already said that part of the deal that they made before they had officially bought Activision, or once it had fully gone through, was that Nintendo was going to get a Call of Duty game. So my guess is it would be Switch 2. I mean, they could make it work on the original Switch. They absolutely could. They did it with the Wii. They had a working 60 frames per second version of Call of Duty Black Ops on the Wii. So, and the Wii was considerably weaker hardware than the PS3 and 360. So it's like they can do it if they want to. They just have to want to. And there's certainly the market for it. The Switch has a massive install base. Just the base Switch on its own. But going back to Black Ops 6 specifically. So, one thing that people, I think, really fail to realize with this, with the idea of it being on Game Pass and everything. Yes, putting it on Game Pass is undoubtedly going to reduce the amount of sales that it gets. Without question. And whether or not Game Pass is profitable enough to make up for the lost sales is a matter of debate. I firmly believe that it does not, that it actually ends up being a net positive for them having people subscribe to Game Pass, because there are a lot of people who they play nothing but like Call of Duty and FIFA, Madden, that sort of thing. And so these people are continuously paying this monthly fee, or in fact, I think that's the only option now is just monthly fee. So they're paying $20 a month, unless they happen to get a deal, which, there are deals out there. They're paying $20 a month to be able to play this game. They make up the cost of the game in a short period of time just from that. And even though it's not true for everyone, there are lots of people who, when they have the option to play a game for free, if they enjoy the game, they'll throw the developer some money through microtransactions and that sort of thing. And that is where Call of Duty makes most of its money anyway, is through microtransactions. They make billions and billions and billions of dollars just in microtransactions yearly. And so that is the biggest thing. But the other thing that has to be kept in mind is that this is not limited to Xbox as well. This is all across the board. It's on both Xbox platforms. Actually, no, it's on all three, because it's on Series X, Series S, and Xbox One. Then it's on PC, it's on PS5, it's on PS4. So it's on a bunch of different platforms. You have a bunch of people who can buy it in a bunch of different ways. A lot of people are paying full price for it, except for those who are doing Game Pass, which they're paying for it essentially in installments. And so you end up still getting a lot of money from that. But the reality is, regardless of anything else, Call of Duty is an evergreen title. The annual Call of Duty release will continue to sell and continue to sell and continue to sell. Even the ones that are the worst rated Call of Duties still sell gangbusters all throughout the year. they're consistently at the very top of sales charts. The only thing that probably even comes close, in fact, maybe even surpasses it, is really just Grand Theft Auto. And that's just because Grand Theft Auto 5 has been selling for the past 11 years and still sells, and it's still consistently on the top of the sales chart. But the reality is that even if a bunch of people just get the game on Game Pass, there's going to be a bunch of microtransactions that will easily make up for that, whether they're bought by the people who got the quote-unquote free version doing the Game Pass route, or they just played it otherwise. So it's not surprising that it was the biggest release they've had. It's released on the most platforms, I believe. Well, it might not be the most as of this point. I'm sure that they've had just as many platforms previously, but of course the main factor is the fact that it was day one on Game Pass. That is the big reason why it is the largest launch that they've ever had. And of course, got a lot of people going for Game Pass, and I'll just be curious to see how many of those people stick with their Game Pass subscription versus drop it. I think it's going to be more people stick with it than not, because Call of Duty, there are not many people who buy it for the campaign and zombies. And I've heard the zombies mode is actually great. In fact, there's a mod on PC for to make the zombies map Luigi's Mansion. And so instead of having zombies, you have the ghost from Luigi's Mansion, and the entire setup is the inside of Luigi's Mansion. And it's just like, it's fantastic. I'll probably try to get a clip of that in the video version of this, but yeah, it's just like, yes, there are some people who are buying it for those, but those are few and far between. Most people are buying it for the multiplayer. And people who play Call of Duty multiplayer, they play it a lot typically, or it's one of the only things they play. Some people, they are in a sense very casual because that's the only thing they play is Call of Duty multiplayer. And so some people, they'll stay subscribed to this for a long time just so that they can do the multiplayer. And considering the fact that a lot of people have to pay for online anyway in order to play the multiplayer, it just ends up working out. So anyway, that's all I got to say on that. I'll just to give a TLDL, I think it's a positive thing. I think it's great that it's selling well, regardless of what people think about it, about the game itself, and it's just all across the board a good thing. All right, any other thoughts on that topic?
No, sir.